welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing fine. It was just yesterday that we met, so I hope you are still fine. Today, normally we would do the Masterpiece Monday. However, to be honest, I'm a little bit tired of playing piano right now. I had my last concert and my first concert of this year. Just on Saturday, so I'm feeling like I need a little break. Give me a little break. I don't want to play right now. So I thought we are going to watch a documentary together, a documentary that I actually already wanted to watch long time ago when the documentary came out. The documentary is called What Would the World Be Without Beethoven? Or A World Without Beethoven, something like that. Hello, everyone. Everyone that is joining on YouTube, please check out my Twitch stream because I'm streaming simultaneously on Twitch and YouTube right now, but only until the end of January, and then I'll switch completely on Twitch for the live streams so I can keep my long-form videos on YouTube. And yes, that's a new haircut, and guess who cut it? Yeah. Last night I was like, you know what? I would like to have some bangs again, and then I just took out my scissors and at least I have like hair cutting scissors, but yeah, you can see that it's like it's not done very well. It's not done very professional. But yeah, it's every time the same. It's every time the same. I'm like, oh, I would like to have some bangs, and then I'm just taking it out and I start to cut and just hope for the best. I think bangs do suit me, but I should definitely try to get them cut like professionally at least once. So I hope it's getting better next time. Anyways, as long as it's not like disturbing you too much, it's fine. It's fine. So today we are going to watch a documentary together, I thought, about Beethoven, World Without Beethoven. And yeah, actually, if you guys know any other documentaries or any other like videos that you would like to watch together, definitely let me know. Either write an email with a link, or maybe I should really open like a Discord server to get more people, so you can actually write your stuff there. Hello to New Zealand! Wow! What time is it in New Zealand right now? Isn't it like... It must be super early in the morning, no? 9 a.m. Okay, that's not that early. I expected it to be much early. Cool. Well, yeah, I thought it's going to be the 6th of January already. So here it is 9 p.m. on the 5th January. Oh, nice. Other people who cut their own hair and their own bangs. Yeah, I tried my best. I think I failed a little bit, but don't tell anyone. Anyways, next time I will do it professionally. I think. I say it now, and next time I'll still cut it myself again. Anyways. So, yes, I got bangs. So, we are going to watch a video, a documentary together. I hope you didn't watch it already, or if you already watched it, that's also fine. We can still watch it together still. Just a quick reminder before we start. I'm coming to Hamburg on the 28th of February. I'll be playing all 4 Chopin ballades there, and Pathétique Sonata by Beethoven, and Claude Debussy's Children's Corner. Tickets and information you'll find in the link in the description box. And yeah, Beethoven. Beethoven, Beethoven, Beethoven. I do love Beethoven, but to be honest, except of piano concertos and a couple of sonatas, I didn't play so much Beethoven yet in my life. Let me know, what did you play by Beethoven so far? Except of sonatas? Or like, which sonatas did you play? Which are your favorite sonatas? Let me know in the chat. I would say that my favorite sonata is probably the Waldstein Sonata. At least that's the one that I've been studying the most, also during my study time. I also love Appassionata, I also love Pathétique, and I also love a lot of like the ones that are not that famous, but yeah, I think Waldstein is probably my favorite one. Alright guys, let me know in the chat, and I'll get ready for our for the documentary. It actually would be nice to have like 2 screens here. Like the screen situation is getting overhand, I feel. Or maybe I should get like an iPad here that I can put next to me so I can still follow the comments and the chat while watching the documentary on a big screen. Anyways, let's get started, I would say. Maybe I put it like this maybe, and then I can still follow everything. Yeah, that makes maybe sense, I hope. I know, I can't see that. Anyways, okay, now I really have to think. I think hard. I have to think hard. Hard. How do I place everything here? Normally I'm having like 3 screens in front of me, and now it's like just 1. Okay, anyways. I'll take my phone to check on the comments, and then I hope everything is going to be fine. Where do I actually see the comments? Not here. Huh. Damn it. I'm so bad with this still. I'm still trying to get, like, to understand how that whole platform works. Ah, I found it. Yeah, I found it. Okay, now let's get ready. I'll only see. If I do that on my phone, I'll only see the chat on Twitch. So everyone that is watching on YouTube, please come check out Twitch so I can also see your chat messages. Otherwise, they will be covered, I guess, by my monitor if I'm going to watch that whole thing here now. Or let me find a better way. Thank you so much, Lily Clemens, for subscribing. That's like such a big support, actually. Okay, we'll maybe find an arrangement together. So this is going to be the setup for the... yeah. Do I have to watch it in a... No. Well, you will see the full screen like that, which I hope is going to be fine. But then I'll have to look at my phone to watch your comments and to stay tuned with the chat. However, I'm only having like the Twitch chat in front of me, so everyone that is watching on YouTube, I can't see your comments. I can't see your chat comments. Please go on Twitch if you want to take place in the chat there as well. You'll find the link in the description box, or you just search for Heart of the Keys with underscore in between each word, and then you'll find my channel. All right, guys, I would like okay, well, I can do that too, to put the face cam underneath. Up. Okay, wait. I have to put this down up. Come on. Like this one up here. And like that. Or I put everything over here. Wait. Let me arrange everything to a point that it makes sense. Like this, and then like this. Does that make sense? That looks good. Looks good to me? Looks good to you? I hope so. I think that looks good. I think that looks good. Okay, now, as I mentioned before, if you guys know any type of documentary that you would like to watch together in one of the upcoming live streams, then please write to me. Yeah, actually, I could add some text here. I don't know what I should put there, though. What should I put there as a text? I don't know. It has to be something cool, though. A cat video. No, I'll just put it like this. Maybe that is a little bit better and balanced then. Okay. Let's start the documentary. I hope I put it in English though. Oh wait, I have to actually put on my earphones, otherwise I can't hear anything. Is it on? Yeah, it is. And now I just hope that I can actually hear things. Okay, I did hear. Oh my god. Okay, guys, are you ready? I hope. Wait, maybe it's a little bit loud. Is it possible it's a little bit loud, right? Okay, I'll put it down. Hope that's better. Okay, I'm at least not the only one who got a jump scare. There is one of the Van Cliburn competition 1989, the one with Sultanov, but I don't like competition. You don't like competitions. Well, it doesn't mean just because I don't like competitions that we can't watch it together, you know. I think there's so much that we can learn and that's interesting to talk about. All right, guys, let's go. Beethoven. Let me know if it's still too loud, if I have to adjust the sound. It's very loud on my headphones. Oh my god, I love Beethoven. Music documentary with Sarah Willis. Okay.
Ludwig van Beethoven challenged his musicians technically like no other composer did before. I'm very happy that he did because he wrote fantastic solos for the horn. A world without Beethoven, I can't even begin to imagine it.
Ludwig van Beethoven shaped entire music.
Horn is a really beautiful instrument if you can play it. Like, I feel they have the most, how do you say that in English? Like the most unthankful voices, because you definitely hear them. Like, you can't just hide behind other instruments and, you know, if you mess up, nobody really hears, nobody really cares. But in the case of the horn, you really have to be there on spot. And the problem is often that, you know, they are not playing all the time. First of all, that would be weird. And second, like with the mouth, I don't think it's possible. Of course it is, but like, you know, it's very hurtful at some point, I think. But, you know, a thankless job. Thank you. My English is really bad. So I think you know, every time that the horn has to start, it's really like a solo. And the first note is so important. And if you're cold and the instrument is cold and everything because of a long break, then like the chance that you mess up is actually pretty high. So I have huge respect for everyone that is playing these kinds of instruments professionally, like in the orchestra. That must be so much pressure there. So, you know, I know a couple of stories of like alcohol abuse because of that, because of the pressure in orchestras, but I don't know so much about that, so I'm not going to lean too much into that.
Musical genres, pushing boundaries and even breaking them. He was a pioneer, and not just when it came to music. What would be missing today in jazz or film scores if it hadn't been for Beethoven's many innovations? Would the concert business as...
Oh yeah, like I'm playing right now out of the Pathétique. There is, in the third movement, there is a part when you just, you know, put everything together, squeeze everything together. It sounds so jazzy. Let me just try that very quick. I want to show you which part I mean. Oh my god, no. I hope I can kind of get it correct. Like this part, it doesn't sound so jazzy so far, but if you put everything together, like, so cool. And so on. Like, it's so cool. Of course, it doesn't sound jazzy in that moment, but it's really cool, isn't it? It's cool. Just admit it. Oh, there's a jazz guy there. Nice. Actually, I thought, you know, I'm going to challenge myself this year. I would like to learn some jazz and improvisation. And, you know, I did start when I was like, I don't know, 16 or something. I did have a little bit of jazz lessons, but to be honest, I didn't take them seriously. I was so scared of improvisation and being free. But now I feel like I should definitely give it another try. So, yeah. Let's continue.
As we know it even exist? And how did Beethoven change the role of the artist? What would a world without Beethoven look like? That's what I wanted to find out. So I visited musicians, managers, even politicians all over the world to trace his influence. My journey begins with the most famous 4 notes in classical music and their enormous influence on popular music.
Right? I bet. Yeah. But did you know that this piece actually starts with a pause? And that's like, that most of the people don't know. It's like not da 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 da, it's ba 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 ba. Like that, there's this impulse that comes there before, and that's so cool.
He did something actually quite clever without making it too relentless.
Oh, come on, it's so cool.
It all started with Beethoven and Chuck Berry.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know. This was inspired by Beethoven.
Chuck Berry might not agree, but rock and roll started here. Ludwig van Beethoven needed just 4 notes to create an entire musical cosmos, and one of the most famous compositions of all time. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, first performed in 1808, is a global hit. Only 4 notes, and they still challenge musicians today.
Yeah, but it's not just the 4 notes, it's like everything that is built around that as well. But of course the 4 notes are great.
Relentlessly going on with the bass guitar.
Ian Anderson from the band Jethro Tull also needed just 4 notes to write the 1971 hit single Locomotive Breath. Rudolf Schenker, the rhythm guitarist for the German band Scorpions, raised the stakes to 5 notes. His guitar riff in Rock You Like a Hurricane is one of the most popular in recent musical history,
But is this really inspired by Beethoven?
surpassed only by the original.
I don't know if that's really inspired by Beethoven, to be honest.
In his Fifth Symphony, Beethoven constantly varies the 4 notes through all the orchestral parts and keys. The simplicity of the idea amazed his contemporaries. 150 years later, the concept was rediscovered in England by rock musicians. The Kinks were among the first in 1964 with just 3 notes. A year later,
Like, I'm not sure if you can really say this is all influenced and got its impulse through Beethoven. I think, sure, probably you can say that. I don't know. Like, if it was not Beethoven who wrote that, then probably someone else would have come up with an idea. And it's not that no other composer came up with an idea that was simple in terms of just a few notes and building up a full work, like a full masterwork, just out of a few notes and playing around with that material. So I don't know. I don't feel like I can't really hear Beethoven in this kind of music, just because they are not using so many notes. I mean, in pop music, you just don't use so many notes. You don't use so many harmonies. And if you look into Beethoven, there are a lot of notes. There are lots of harmonies, and just the main theme is not built up with a lot of notes. That's it.
3 notes were all the Rolling Stones needed too, and they still weren't satisfied. Deep Purple became superstars with these 4 notes. The idea caught on in the United States as well, and heavy metal was
Yeah, so here in the chat I can see there are a couple of nice examples. For example, also in Bach Christmas Oratorium, he also just have a few note impulse. And yeah, I guess you're all on my side here. It's a pretty big stretch, I feel, to say that all of these great hits in pop music are influenced through Beethoven's Fifth Symphony just because he's also using just a few notes. Like, no.
full of catchy riffs. These 4 notes shot Nirvana to stardom in 1991. And the White Stripes' 5 notes have become a global football chant. Did Beethoven discover the
That's a nice comment. This is me when I'm asked to write a 50 essay and waste half of the pages making comparisons to random stuff. That's so true.
perfect formula for a hit song back in 1808? We're in Hanover at the Expo Park, and I'm standing right in front of the very famous Peppermint Studios, where inside the Scorpions are rehearsing.
I was already wondering what they are going to do in Hannover. Was Beethoven ever in Hannover? I don't know. Not sure.
With over 110 million records sold, the Scorpions are one of the most successful bands of their generation. Rudolf Schenker wrote the band's best-known guitar riffs. Do you know what I found? This quote from the internet. Rudolf Schenker is the Beethoven of Hanover.
That's very flattering, but there are worlds between us. You can't take that too seriously, but that's a nice thing.
Well, he
I
seems like a
was
nice
so happy
guy.
when I read that.
But it fits the topic.
Yeah, me neither. Also don't understand this modern music part. I mean, I do like they were asking what would be the world today without Beethoven's music. However, I still feel like that's a very wide stretch to say all the modern music was influenced through Beethoven. Like, of course, we all got influenced by Beethoven because we all know his music, like at least part of his music. But I don't know how much Beethoven these people actually listened. I'm pretty sure they didn't. They might have heard of the Fifth Symphony and maybe a few other things, but I don't think that they actually sat down and said, okay, today I'm going to listen to a couple of piano sonatas by Beethoven or something like that. Like, I can't imagine that. I think they came up with their own ideas and with their own music. Of course, everything is kind of influenced and is building up on each other, but like, yeah, far stretch.
It has to be played aggressively.
That's like super cringe. Playing horn together.
Now I would put a beautiful suspenseful note under it.
Ton unterlegen.
What are they doing?
With a crescendo.
Yeah, like that, just some suspense.
So many rock bands have stolen Beethoven.
Of course, the subconscious always plays a role. For example, Americans have been influenced by the blues. The Europeans, the English, and of course we Germans especially, have been influenced by classical music because it's in our genes.
Okay, that's a fair point, I would say. Yes, we get it. We have it in our genes in terms of we grew into that. However, nowadays I would say it's actually not there anymore for most of Germans. They don't listen to classical music, unfortunately. It's like, it feels a little bit like Germans are ashamed of their culture and of their history just because of of course it was bad what happened during the wars, but that doesn't define the whole country forever, I would say. Like, there is a time period before that we can be proud of, I feel. And I feel in Germany, you're not allowed to be proud of Germany. That's like a huge problem. Anyways, I'm not going to talk too much about that. But yeah, like, it's still like she's trying so hard to put Beethoven into like the spotlight here and how Beethoven influenced everything in modern music, but it's like, nah, girl, nah.
That's why Metallica are such big Scorpions fans. They said, hold on, the Scorpions sound completely different. We've got to check this out. They noticed, wait a minute, there are other influences. And they noticed the influence of classical music, because the blues shape you differently. We here can't play the blues at all. We're shaped by classical music in such a way that we focus on melody and a certain rhythm.
I believe
that the riffs are perceived differently over the decades and centuries. In the past, life was less hectic. Nowadays, there's an abundance of everything. So you have to find something that has signaling effect. This is extremely important. And then you have to keep that feeling alive, so that it's not only there for a short time and dies off. And when you're writing music, you have to arouse curiosity in order to keep the listener with you.
Yeah, I can understand what he means. I mean, our attention span really went down a lot. And I mean, my little brother, he is only 19 years old. just a little cutie in our family. And the thing is that, you know, when he listens to classical music, like, he likes classical music, but he especially likes specific parts out of the pieces. And he's always asking me, like, why did Tchaikovsky only write this specific part once? Like, why isn't it coming again? And like, why isn't he milking the shit out of it? Like, this is so cool. Why is there it only once in this whole piece of 10 minutes? I don't want to hear the rest of the stuff. I just want to hear that specific part. And I feel like we kind of forgot how important it is to, you know, not only hear what we like, but hear the full context of something. Like, it's a little bit like you're eating your favorite food, your favorite meal every single day for every single time you eat something. So in my case, it would be spaghetti bolognese. So it's like you're eating the same stuff again and again and again. And of course you like it, but at some point it's just, don't you want to hear something else and eat something else so you can appreciate the spaghetti bolognese a little bit better? Like, you can't just spoil yourself and like, it's, I don't know how to say it. Like, at some point you also don't like it anymore, no? So yeah, I feel like, and now today, you know, we are so used to listen to pieces that are only, or to songs that are only like 2-3 minutes long, if at all. And having that patience to sit down and listen to a classical piece that takes like 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, like nobody does that today anymore. Or like, not nobody, but like most people don't do that anymore, and that's a little bit sad, I feel. And we are trained into that direction. But I hope that someday we might shift back, because we are so overfeeded with this short-term stuff.
Dann zu schreiben, sodass der immer bei der Stange bleibt.
The result? Short melodic riffs which inspire audiences around the world.
I mean, it's definitely cool, and you can totally engage with that kind of music. But yeah, it's very repetitive, so you can't really keep that up for 10 minutes.
The flute is Ian Anderson's trademark. He has been influenced by both English folk music and the greats of classical music.
Yeah, here, Chris9999 says, whenever I find a new song I like, I listen to it for hours and get bored of it the same day. I totally feel you. Like, it's the same for me. I could listen to it for the whole day, and the next day I'm like, okay, no, I had enough of it. I want to listen to something else again. And that never happens with classical music to me. But let me know in the chat how you deal with like pieces that you just discovered, like songs, especially pop songs, that you can't get enough of in that moment, and then at some point you're oversaturated.
I was comparing the Beethoven's Fifth, the opening statement, as being typical of the motif in music, not just classical music, rock music.
But wait, are we now only talking about Beethoven's Fifth Symphony? Like, is that the only thing that Beethoven composed? Excuse
Jazz,
me?
pop, whatever, a motif, an idea that is repeated very often as a repeating motif, which then tends to be shortened to riff. The idea of a riff in jazz or rock is usually a repeating motif. Now, of course, Beethoven did use that idea and develops that idea of the da-da-da-dum, And I would guess this is what happened with Beethoven. He wasn't sitting there mulling over these same few notes. Da, 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 da. He probably just went, he probably spilled his coffee and accidentally went, ba, 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 bum. Oh, that sounds good, which is the way most of us work. A good
Impressive
rock riff,
dude.
I suppose, is going to be simple, direct. It's going to repeat because it is truly a riff, not just a motif, an opening gambit, if you like, a statement. It is usually a repeating phrase. So that, you know, the great rock riffs, I suppose, that come to mind, or come to my mind, perhaps one of the greatest ever, would have been Ritchie Blackmore's wonderful riff in a piece called Smoke on the Water. You know, I love the one, the ZZ Top one, that is this wonderful shuffle thing with a lot of backbeat stuff that is called La Grange. It goes... which repeats.
Yeah, and all of these motifs have something in common, which is an interesting rhythm. In that case, like they have lots of syncopations there, so like it puts you off, so it doesn't get boring, because of an interesting rhythm. And the same counts actually also for Beethoven, because of that pause that he wrote before the 3 repeating notes. Like you get that impulse. And also the motif is extremely short, so yeah, the material to play with is like incredibly big, and you can do whatever you want. And I actually have more problem with like pop music that is using very cheap like melody, rhythm, harmony, dynamics. Like they're getting rid of everything that is kind of interesting just to make it so as cheap and stupid as possible. You know, I see that actually in so many other things now as well, with new movies, new series. It feels everything is so dumbed down for the audience as if we are stupid as hell. And yeah, you know, just make it easier to process for our brain. It's like processed food. You can just swallow it. There's nothing. There are no ingredients. Nothing nutritious for you, but you can eat it.
It's all the way through. So that's a great rock riff. Very simple one to play. Just essentially, it's really 3
By the way,
notes.
everyone that is watching
And
on YouTube, please
in many ways,
join
it's
me
that
on
same
Twitch
thing
because I
with
can't see
the
your chat
wonderful
there.
Whole Lot of Love,
So if you
which,
want to engage in the chat,
is in
please
this key, in fact.
come and join me on Twitch.
Maybe Beethoven, you see, and if he was born again today, I don't really see him riding around in the stately family Mercedes, you know, with 2 screaming kids in the back. I think of Beethoven more like an off-road motorcycle guy, you know, getting a bit down and dirty in the mud. That's my idea of Beethoven.
That was actually a nice question. What do you think how Beethoven would dress today, how he would be as a person today, how they would react to like modern technology and stuff? That would be interesting to know.
Repetitive motifs have always played a defining role in music.
Thank you.
But Beethoven amplified their impact, and pop music is still influenced by him today. Did Beethoven have any idea that 150 years later, musicians would continue to be so inspired by him? I went to Vienna, where he became famous, to find out more. In 1792, Beethoven didn't arrive in Vienna as a celebrity on a motorcycle, but as a young piano virtuoso in a horse-drawn carriage.
1792. Okay, he might have been in Vienna for, meeting up with people there, but he didn't move there already. I think he moved there in 1800 or 1803, something like that, I believe. At least that was what I had in my head. I might be wrong here.
He had already earned a considerable reputation in Bonn and quickly became a well-known face in Vienna's musical society. Beethoven clearly left his mark on the Austrian capital. His homes are now museums, and the places he worked are now sites of pilgrimage for his fans from all around the world.
Wow. Vienna is so beautiful. Is anyone here that
When he
watches
arrived
from
in Vienna
Vienna?
as a 21-year-old composition student, there was no indication his arrival here would divide musical history into the world before Beethoven and the world after Beethoven. In Vienna, Beethoven developed into an artist and composer of international standing. Starting with his first symphony, he demonstrated his systematic approach.
At least we're not just listening to the Fifth Symphony. I love this one. But you can really hear the early Beethoven here. Ah, someone, Davidson, is in Vienna. What are you doing in Vienna? If you're just there in the moment.
Beethoven didn't start the symphony in the usual way with a thunderclap in the home key. Instead, he broke all the rules by opening with a dissonant chord, which initially leaves listeners in the dark and then leads them astray. The opening circles around the symphony's actual key of C major, but it never arrives there. Beethoven's first symphony showed he was someone who hoped his works of art would stand the test of time.
That's a far guess. I don't know if he really wanted to, stand the test of time. Or let's say, I don't know if that was on his mind when he composed the stuff. I don't know if any of the composers would have expected their music to last for the next 200, 300, 400 years for people to listen and to admire to, but I don't know. Yes, I'm sitting on an exercise ball because I'm having back pain.
More short-lived light music for the nobility, instead, masterpieces for Europe's increasingly music-loving bourgeoisie. Beethoven was the first composer to consistently assign his compositions opus numbers. Symphony number 1, opus 21.
Nice. Welcome, Ramu.
He saw himself as an
Thanks
artist
for joining
on the
us
same
on
level
Twitch.
as the writers,
Everyone else that
sculptors,
is
and
still on
painters of his
YouTube,
day.
come and join me on Twitch.
And he set the highest of standards for himself and others. Earlier composers were guided by musicians' abilities. Beethoven ignored them, formulating precise notations in his scores for tempo, dynamics, and articulation.
Yeah, and he did something here that actually did have an impact on our, the way we treat classical music today, which is that he made sure that he put as many details as possible there and really made sure if he writes piano, you have to play piano. If he writes that and that and that, you really have to look very closely into what he wrote because he really wanted you to play exactly what he's written. Now that had the problem, or not the problem, but like it had two effects. First of all, people were looking extremely closely into the scores, and because of that, they did not continue improvisation. Like, of course, people were still improvising, but more and more there was this development of I have to play exactly what the composer wrote and nothing else but that. So improvisation got more, like, we lost improvisation in classical music more and more. Of course, Liszt, Chopin, all of them, they could still improvise like gods. And at that time, it didn't start yet. It was also not just Beethoven. It also started with Clara Schumann. So much later, she was one of the first people who actually performed without the scores on stage. So she played everything out of her memory. And people were saying, "You're such an arrogant girl." So yeah, it's like we lost improvisation because of that development of not playing freely anymore, because Beethoven really wanted you to play exactly what's written there.
His art required trained professionals who dedicated long rehearsals to mastering his works. And that required institutions that could finance those efforts.
That's true.
Something unexpected happened. His revolutionary demands were met.
Well, because back then everyone was a huge fan of Beethoven. And he was very clear in... He was a genius in marketing himself to the right people and in networking. So he was like making sure he gets the finances, like he gets financed by very rich people to create art freely without having any worries about his financial situation, which was actually extremely intelligent. Nowadays, we still have that kind of form, at least in Germany, where we have lots of art, especially classical music, that is supported from the state, so tax money. I honestly, I have a divided opinion about that. I can understand where it comes from historically, and I agree that probably you can move more freely if you don't have to worry about making money. However, I feel like many artists that are supported by the state, and also institutions that are supported by the state, they are kind of laying back too much because it's so granted, and they are taking the money for way too granted, which Beethoven never did. Like, he worked very hard for his money, but I feel like lots of artists and institutions that are fed by tax money are like just laying back and like, yeah, you know, I'm getting the money anyway. Like, I don't really have to create big art. I can just do whatever I want, kind of.
Welcome to Vienna, for many the musical capital of the world, and I'm here at the Musikverein, the Golden Concert Hall.
Today, the Vienna Musikverein, meaning Music Association, is known for its legendary concert hall, which opened in 1870. Many consider it to have the best acoustics in the world, and we all know the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra.
But then Beethoven was not alive anymore, 1870. Beethoven died 1827. Yeah.
Orchestra's New Year's Day concert, which is broadcast every year live worldwide. The Musikverein was founded in 1812 with an idea that changed the world of music. Citizens joined forces to support Vienna's musical life. Beethoven also became a member, but in his own way.
Beethoven was commissioned by the association Gesellschaft der Musikfreunde to write a piece of music. But he was quite unhappy with the text he had to work with, or the music association gave him a text that he didn't want to set to music. But he'd already received what today we would call a down payment. Things dragged on, the work was never created, Beethoven was famous, and it turned out that he wouldn't deliver anything. And of course, you can't say to Beethoven, please give me the money back. So they did something that probably wouldn't be done today. They decided he should keep the money and they would make him an honorary member.
The association has been active for so long until today and has such a big impact on the musical life in Vienna. How have you managed to be so influential for so long?
On the one hand, we were the first, but we didn't just hold concerts. Back when we were founded in 1812, our main concern was actually the conservatory. It was the only place in the whole Austro-Hungarian Empire to learn music, to study music. Concerts were not the primary focus. This was only the third purpose. Teaching, collecting, concerts. That has changed a lot over time.
Oh, that's true. So beautiful. I would love to play there someday.
You have been the artistic director here for 31 years. You must have heard a lot of Beethoven. Would you say that Beethoven is a bestseller?
For sure. There's no debate. Beethoven is always...
But I have to say that in Vienna, classical music plays a completely different role compared to the rest of the world, I feel. Especially compared to the rest of German-speaking countries. You know, like the amount of classical music that's being played there and the appreciation for this kind of culture is just completely different than for the rest of the world. They are still living in a time where they actually value this kind of music, I feel. While I don't know, if you would walk through Stuttgart, I'm pretty sure most people couldn't tell you who wrote the Fifth Symphony and so on and so on. Like it's yeah. Okay, Warsaw maybe, but I would say not as much as Vienna. Like Vienna is not just a huge Beethoven fan club. It's like classical music in general. And Warsaw, I would say they are mainly Chopin fan club, which I admire. Like that's my world. But I don't think that they are like that much into classical music as the people in Vienna are.
Is extremely popular. Listening to his music is extremely popular, and as you rightly say, it's a bestseller.
What would you say is Beethoven's appeal? Why do people still adore coming to a Beethoven cycle?
It's the classical music. This is the pinnacle of classical music, a kind of absolute music.
So neither you nor the association could imagine a world without Beethoven?
We can't imagine it, but if he hadn't existed, we wouldn't know what we'd missed out on.
Luckily he did, and luckily we have him.
Yeah. I would be a little bit... I would be a little bit careful in claiming that Beethoven is like the classical music. And, you know, of course Beethoven was great, but there are also other composers that were great. Like Mozart is also the classical music. Haydn is also the classical music. Like, you can't just say that like everything that was created there was just coming out of one person. That's not true. Beethoven also learned a lot through Mozart and Haydn. and all of them had different strengths and weaknesses, let's say. Even though I couldn't name any weaknesses, but they all had different strengths. So yeah, I would be a little bit careful in saying that's like the composer of classical music. I don't know.
The concept of concert halls for professional musicians quickly conquered the world in the 19th century. Associations, foundations, and cities financed these temples of classical music, these architectural masterpieces.
By the way, have someone of you already watched a concert in the new Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg? Let me know in the chat. And that's the great moment for doing some advertisement here. I'm also coming to Hamburg to the beautiful LAEISZHALLE, which was the most renowned concert hall in Hamburg before the Elbphilharmonie. On the 28th of February, I'm going to play all 4 Chopin ballades, Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata, and Debussy's Children's Corner. All right, back to the documentary. Let's go.
In 1891, the first American temple of music opened its doors.
Carnegie Hall is one of the most iconic concert halls in the world.
Yeah.
And the first
I wanna
concert was
play
in
there too.
1891. And guess what was on the program? Beethoven, of course.
Beethoven, who else?
But was it only Beethoven? Or did they also play something else there?
And then they all started coming to New York. Richard Strauss celebrated some of his greatest successes here. Gustav Mahler conducted here. Tickets to see swing legend Benny Goodman were resold on the street for astronomical sums. The Beatles and Bob Dylan's concerts are legendary. If you make it to Carnegie Hall, you really made it. But how do you get there? Practice, practice, practice.
Or you just rent the hall and play there. But the rental is probably extremely expensive.
Literally, I mean, from the word go, Beethoven has been part of our life here.
As executive director and artistic director, could you even imagine a world without Beethoven?
Well, there's so many things about him that, I mean, he was a revolutionary in every single way. Because if one thinks about how people wrote music and
I feel like he wants to say but, yeah, he wants to say that but.
context for music, writing music before him, you know, where you were basically writing music for people. Most of the time you were being told what you had to write.
You only had the one set of orchestra players.
Yes, you had your
couldn't go
fixed resource, but you also had to keep somebody satisfied, whoever was paying you. I mean, Beethoven didn't feel he had to satisfy anybody. He only wrote what he believed in. Every single form that he touched, he completely transformed. I mean, every single aspect of what he did, he changed music forever.
Yeah, that's actually true. Like, he really experimented a lot, also with like new technologies at the piano, for example. So obviously on the older instrument, on the historical instruments, his music didn't sound well. And if you read critics from back then, they actually said, yeah, no, that's like you can't really listen to that. That's like, it's just noise. And so Beethoven, because of his compositions, forced the piano industry to evolve and to create better instruments with a wider range in terms of like more notes on the discant, but also in the bass, more dynamical range as well, and the speed, and like so many things that were caused because Beethoven's music was so challenging to create on the historical instrument. So that like it pushed each other, I would say. Like the piano manufacturers, they would also come up with new things, and Beethoven tried it out, and then he would integrate it in his compositions, and so it would like play into each other, basically.
What does the public like to hear the best from Beethoven?
Fifth Symphony.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean,
Moonlight
you as a player,
Sonata.
me as an ex-player, I
Is
don't
there
think
anything else that he
there's
composed?
any piece I played more in my entire life than the Beethoven Fifth or the Beethoven Seventh Symphony. I mean, those were on programs endlessly. So I mean,
They've been played over 300 times at Carnegie Hall. I mean, just
Right.
that one piece, it's hard to
it's
even
insane,
imagine.
isn't it? But you know, so the fact is, you could do a Beethoven cycle, symphony cycle, piano sonata cycle, every single year, year after year after year. But the fact is, Beethoven has an effect which I think almost no other composer does. I mean, which is you can always sell his music, and people use it. If you just think when the Berlin
Yeah, but we also have to admit that it was marketed extremely well. Like, sure, Beethoven's music is crazy good, and I love his music, and I also can't get enough of it, but still, it's a little bit like Mona Lisa, you know? It's a great painting, but it's also had, like, extremely good marketing, and that's why so many people from all around the world want to see the real Mona Lisa. It's not that the Louvre doesn't have, like, other art there that is also crazy good. It's just that the marketing for that specific piece was just like, at least in today's time, it was like, it's crazy.
all fell, it's the Beethoven Ninth Symphony. In Japan, it has to be done every year around Christmas.
Oh yeah, aren't they doing like this huge choir thing where like a full stadium is filled with people that are going to sing together the finale? That's like crazy.
It is a piece that symbolizes great moments in history. It almost has to be played at great moments in history.
I love that piece. I wonder why we didn't take this as our German national anthem, but sticked to the Haydn piece. I mean, the Haydn piece is also nice, but you know, especially with the context of Second World War and like the Nazi regime taking this piece, you know, I would have get rid of that and just taken Beethoven. This is one of the best pieces ever played, and now Europe took this as their anthem, but I wanted it for Germany.
The effect he's had in so many different ways, but frankly, preparing the platform for the future, but also, in a way, he was the first great romantic. I mean, even though he wasn't yet there, but he prepared the ground for the romantics completely. Because the whole thing of the emotion and the passion that he brought to everything. So it's every dimension he changed.
What do you...
Yeah, you can't tell me that, like, so many pieces that he wrote. For example, also the Germans want everything for themselves. Yeah, at least the good stuff, you know. I like this. To me, this is like one of the most beautiful melodies that Beethoven ever composed, and that is, like, in many ways it already feels a lot like romantic music, but of course still like with that classical influence. So yeah, but Beethoven was a real genius. I love his music.
You think works best? Do you put Beethoven together with modern music? Is there any sort of formula you found has worked really well, or does Beethoven work best as a concert planner in a complete Beethoven program?
You know, we're never thinking in terms of what works best. What we're thinking is what illuminates what. So, I mean, the fact is, yes, you can put...
Isn't that the same? What works best, what illuminates what? Like, it still comes to the question, like, what works best?
Beethoven in the context of contemporary composers. You can put him in a historic context. You can, I mean, this is, again, what's fascinating about him. You can put him in almost any context.
Well, basically, you can't imagine a world without Beethoven.
It's truly unimaginable. I mean, I would love to know what a great composer coming afterwards, where they were building on so much of what he transformed.
Yeah.
Where would they have been?
They were
Beethoven not only
extremely
broke new ground
scared.
with his
You know, Schubert was living at the same time as Beethoven. He was a huge fan of Beethoven, but, simultaneously he felt so suppressed by the work of Beethoven, by the presence of Beethoven, also in the same city in Vienna, that it was a little bit like a blockage on Schubert. And after Beethoven died, in that year, Schubert was like putting out so many masterpieces. Like he worked himself to death in that 1 year, because he actually died 1 year after Beethoven died. And in that year, he composed so much stuff. Like the majority of the pieces that he published, I think, is created in that 1 year. And it really looks like, okay, he's dead now. Finally, I can breathe.
Positions, he also set completely new standards for the concert business and established music as an art form.
I mean, if you look at something like the 60s, when the arts were fundamental in America to all the big changes that happened in terms of the Race Relations Act, women's rights, gay rights, all of these things, the arts played a central role. Now, Beethoven was the first musician and the first composer who actually had a genuine social conscience, and he was fighting for things that he really believed in. His music is about revolution. It is about change. It's about...
I wouldn't say that it was the first musician who fought for things that, like, who wrote things into music that he believed in, because if you look into Bach's music, he believed a lot into God and religion, you know, and you can clearly find that in his music. In Mozart's music, he was like part of the Freimaurer Illuminati thing, you know. And his beliefs were also very much written into his music. But yeah, Beethoven was very much also politically, like he wanted to spread his political opinion in music as well, which is definitely something new, I would say.
Always being utterly compelling in what you write, never comfortable.
Beethoven composed his Third Symphony in turbulent times. Napoleon Bonaparte had overrun Europe with war and brought the ideas of the French Revolution to Europe's monarchies.
Yeah, Beethoven was actually a huge fan of Napoleon, up to the point that he put the crown on his own head, and
Beethoven
then
passionately
hated
supported the revolution's ideals of freedom, equality, fraternity. His Third Symphony, the Eroica, reflects that enthusiasm. Although Napoleon even threatened Beethoven's adopted home of Vienna, the composer decided to dedicate his symphony to the French general. A gesture he angrily took back, furiously scratching Napoleon's name from the score when the military leader declared himself emperor. In the score, he wrote that the symphony was subsequently dedicated to the memory of a great man. Today, the Eroica is considered revolutionary, a great symphonic achievement. Beethoven's political convictions influenced many of his other compositions. In 1805, he wrote his only opera Fidelio, an opera of liberation. Its theme is the struggle of the individual against an overpowering dictatorship. So Beethoven was a political composer.
For sure.
Can social critique and political commitment be expressed through music?
For sure. Look into the Revolutionary Etude by Chopin and like all the pieces that Beethoven wrote, of course. But yes, of course.
Today, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is not only the official anthem of the European Union, but also a symbol of freedom worldwide. And it's been the soundtrack of great historical
It's not
events,
just
including
freedom. It's not just freedom. It's like Brüderlichkeit. What does Brüderlichkeit mean in English? Brotherhood? Yeah, but like this is like a little bit strange. It's more going into like peace for the world, kind of.
fall of the Berlin Wall. To this day, Beethoven's Ninth encourages musicians to take a political stand.
Myrdin Chess is asking, what's the issue of today? So we are watching a documentary about Beethoven, or mainly about what would the world be without Beethoven here today, together. Actually, by the way, everyone that is watching on YouTube, I can't see your chat messages, so please, if you want to engage in the chat, join me on Twitch. You'll find the link in the description box. In the future, I'm also going to only stream on Twitch. You can also re-watch the streams in the future on Twitch. But I would like to keep the streams on Twitch and the long-form videos on YouTube. This is why I'm dividing this. So if you want to not miss the future streams, please check out the link in the description box or search for Heart of the Keys with an underscore in between each word on Twitch.
Like a phoenix rising from the rubble of the war, hope of ages manifested, peace and freedom evermore. Brothers, sisters, stand together, raise your voices now as one. Though by history divided, reconciled in unison.
For 1985, there's only one real question in people's minds as far as I'm concerned, and one decision to be made. Which side are you on?
In the mid-1980s, Billy Bragg became the musical face of Britain's political conflicts. The coal miners' strike had paralyzed the country for months. The miners were protesting against pit closures, and many people across the United Kingdom were showing their solidarity.
In 1984, I just started a career as a solo kind of punk singer-songwriter when the miner strike happened in the UK and the working class mobilised against Margaret Thatcher, and suddenly I was in the right place at the right time to start a more ideological kind of political songwriting. And
like many musicians of his generation, Billy Bragg was influenced by punk rock, which emerged in England in the late 1970s.
The Clash were responsible for my politicisation. When they played at the first big Rock Against Racism festival in London in 1978, I went along. That was the first political activism I'd ever taken part in. And that day changed my perspective on the world.
But do they want to claim now that if there was no Beethoven, there wouldn't be any political music today? I don't think so. I really don't think. Sure, a lot of artists, they don't want to say any political opinions publicly, and I can totally understand why. I also try to not step too much into that, but I don't think that, you know, art has always been how do you say? Something where you can just speak freely, you know? So why not about political stuff as well? And I don't think that if Beethoven didn't do it, nobody would have done it. I think at some point people would have started putting their political beliefs into their music. Yeah, they have been stretching the whole documentary, that's true.
I think Beethoven can be a role model today. When I was tasked with writing a new English language lyric for the Ode to Joy, rather than try to translate directly Schiller's original poem, I just took one line, Alle Menschen werden Brüder.
Alle Menschen werden Brüder. All human become brothers. Which is such a beautiful line, to be honest. And now, like, a lot of political correctness people will come, what? Why only brothers, no sisters? You know, you get the sense of that line, I hope.
Become brothers. There's that universal idea of humanity. And built on that, my lyric is more or less an expansion of that idea. And I think that it speaks to us down the ages. Whenever the Ode to Joy is used, it's always that humanity that is evoked. The joy of humanity in all its forms is there in Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Currency of music, what we do is empathy. That's what we're singing about. We're trying to make people feel as if they're not alone. We're trying to make people feel emotions for someone they've never met, perhaps, or experiences that they've never themselves had. So that's what we're dealing with at gigs, whether we're political or not. I mean, any songwriter is dealing with that.
Exactly.
But if you match that empathy with activism, if you encourage your audience to become active,
folk music has always been political, says
because if you mix
Triaza plays piano. I'm not sure if it's always been political, but there's definitely some political background in
the
that.
Final movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which has such a political impact.
I think we should all listen more to Beethoven and just, you know, create peace on the world. I don't understand what's happening in the world right now. Like, my God.
To ask someone who knows his way around politics as well as Beethoven.
I guess Trump has never listened to Ninth Symphony, says Mirden Chess.
He was president of the German parliament for 12 years, and he's a great Beethoven fan. Do you think that the piece is powerful as a political statement more through the text, or does the music also have something to do with it?
Stop it. Of course, it's not only the text. It's what Beethoven made out of the text. We have so much glorious text and lyrics and so on. But listen to the music. Even without the text, this music is glorious. It's like... Of course, together, like, if you sing it with the choir, it's going to add even more on top of it. But I believe that even without the text, everyone would understand what it's about.
Beizusteuern.
The influence that music and musicians have had on societal development is remarkable, especially in recent human history. Incidentally, the connection between music and lyrics plays a rather decisive role. Pure instrumental music, I believe, usually does not produce that kind of comparable mobilizing political effect.
That's true.
Singer-songwriters or composers who deliberately tackle political topics and texts can achieve much better results.
That's true. I mean, if you want to express like a specific political opinion or things, then of course you need some lyrics to actually say it out loud. But then again, I sometimes feel like, you know, pieces that used to have a text, used to have lyrics, and then you strip away the lyrics and you're left with the instrumental version of that. It goes so much deeper if you know the lyrics, but you don't hear them. Like, for example, Liebestraum by Franz Liszt. It used to be a song with actual lyrics. And sure, when you're playing that, you should definitely know the lyrics. You should know how it shaped the music. But it goes so much deeper if you hear that without hearing the lyrics, but you know the lyrics. Does that make sense? So, yeah.
The Ninth Symphony is still a bold statement for many. I did a little experiment at the Brandenburg Gate and played the theme of the last movement of the Ninth Symphony for the tourists. Most of them said it was the European anthem and not Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
The melody has become the European anthem without the words, and has clearly become independent. Almost everyone knows the melody. Not everyone, by a long shot, knows the words.
Kennt den Text.
Okay, quick break. I need to go to the toilet very quick because I drank too much tea. But isn't that a cute cup? Cup. It's a cup. Do you see that even? This was like such a thing many years ago in Germany. I don't know if it was in other countries as well. But my fiance gave it to me as a present, which is cute. Because normally I don't find things where my name is written on top, and since this is like you can personalize it, it was like I was very happy about that. So I have to go to the toilet very quick. See you in a bit. You can talk to the Teddy. Meanwhile, here, Teddy, it's your turn. Showtime. Go on. Okay, I'm back. What did he tell you? Pretty sure he told you a lot of secrets again. I hope you also have something to drink with you. Some nice tea or coffee or Coca-Cola. Teddy needs a salary cut. He's not entertaining us well. What? Teddy, I'm paying you so well. But he is Beethoven, guys. He's Beethoven. It's actually, what was it? I think Für Elise is written on him. Yeah, pretty sure it's Für Elise. Guys, I really messed up my bangs. It's like, ugh. I did not do a good job on my bangs. My bangs are not banging. Ah! Anyways, we forget about my hair. It's just hair. It's going to grow back. Okay. Are you ready for the next? We are going to continue. Let me first drink something. Oh, Dem Da is asking, hi Nick, please tell me, what should I play for my medical student crush? Guys, what should he or she play for the medical student crush? Maybe, I think Liebestraum is a little bit too obvious. It's too obvious. Dr. Gradus ad Parnassum, I don't know. Like, that's not very romantic. I think you want to... I think it should be something impressive, but still romantic and a little bit, you know... Ah, Dr. Gradus... because of Dr. Okay, I didn't get it. I'm stupid. That was actually a good one. Shit. Okay. I thought it should be something impressive, but still romantic. So... Liz Consolation, is that Widmung? I don't know. Maybe not. But Widmung is actually beautiful. That's true. Or Chopin, Opus 25, number 1. That always works. says me, who never played this to impress anyone. Like, at least not like a crush of mine. No. Compose yourself a piece and play it for her. Yeah, I mean, if you have the composer skills like me, you better don't, because there's nothing good coming out of that. Yeah, Chopin is a good choice. Or like a nocturne by Chopin, something like that. Like every girl likes Chopin. Every man likes Chopin. We all love Chopin. Come on. All right, let's continue. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one.
The Venezuelan pianist Gabriela Montero lives in Barcelona. She has a skill that few classical pianists have mastered, the art of improvisation.
Wait, stop a second. A few classical pianists today, of today's world. It was very, very different like 100, 200 years ago. That was very, very different. And I'm a little bit mad at everyone that ruined it for us. Because when I was small, we were not allowed to play around. You know, we were not allowed to play around. We were like, you have to play exactly what's written in the scores. Every note that is not written there is wrong. It's not, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe you can discover how it's going to continue if you follow that path. But it was just wrong. And to me personally, that did lots of damage. And I can see that with lots of other classical pianists as well. There are so less of them left that can actually improvise. And it's really a big skill that got lost over the last centuries, kind of. Just because of the piano education of, you know, you have to play exactly what's written in the score and nothing else but that. It's like this very academic bullshit. Yeah, we have to get back to that, like, for sure. Especially because all of the music that we play, it came out of improvisation, you know? It's not just, it didn't just, you know, people did not just have like big brains and put it down like that. They were improvising at the piano. They were playing around and feeling free with that instrument. If someone told me, sit down and just play whatever, like just don't play whatever you've practiced, like the pieces that you've practiced, just play anything, I can't. I'm so scared of doing that. So like, and the same counts for all my colleagues, like not all, but obviously there are a few, but really just a few classical pianists. Okay, but let me know in the chat. Have you learned how to improvise? And, or did you have similar experiences? Let me know in the chat. What did I do? I clicked on the wrong... Wait. Well, we're already here.
Existing traditions. Quite the contrary. And
kennt den Text.
Tradition
here.
of Lieder, songs
No.
with
That's valid for
Here. Okay.
kidnap.
What? Murder? Kidnap? What?
Fake anecdotes of how Beethoven.
art of improvisation.
Here we were.
Knowing the anecdotes of how Beethoven would sit down and improvise in the middle of his sonatas, in the middle of his written works, gave me a sense that perhaps in the past, the great geniuses allowed themselves a license to see music as not something that was fixed, but rather malleable.
Yeah, for sure.
Gabriela Montero is also known for her political commitment. She's a strong critic of the regime in her home country of Venezuela.
Well.
People often ask me why I became involved. Why do I talk about politics and such?
Exactly,
ugly
great timing on
things
that one.
That I share sometimes. If you were to look at my social media inbox, you would see hundreds, if not thousands, of stories of Venezuelans who have shared with me countless stories of horror, of exile, of murder, kidnap, starvation, family members dying for lack of medicine. The most basic human needs are not enjoyed by a whole country. Beethoven
Wow,
knew
it's so
that
cool that she can
music is a
improvise
great
like that.
amplifier and
I'm so in awe right now. Like, I would love to be able to improvise like that. That's so cool to have that skill.
magnifier of underlying motivations. His example of using the beautiful tool of music to tell a story, to raise awareness, and to leave an imprint in history, telling us today what he went and he lived through at the time, is something that's valid for all generations. I think he was a great example of someone who not only saw music as a tool for joy or a tool for aesthetic beauty, but rather a tool for carrying a message that was perhaps even more important than just writing something sublime.
Yeah, I think that made him stand out as well.
What was the most innovative thing about Beethoven?
The longer I delve into music in general, and into Beethoven in particular, the more I come to the conclusion that the connection between tradition and innovation was the most outstanding feature for him. One cannot seriously say that Beethoven had nothing to do with the history of music, the pre-existing traditions. Quite the contrary. And conversely, there is hardly anyone else who handles this tradition so confidently and then immediately blows it up.
Yeah, Beethoven was really pushing music to the next level, that's for sure.
Okay, one more time.
In 1816, Beethoven revolutionized the tradition of Lieder, songs with poetic lyrics.
I didn't know this piece. I didn't know this song. Does the song?
That was very beautiful, that German.
Okay, but let's do the transition one more time.
Because there was you weren't quite together here on the bar before.
Okay, dann die dir klar, das ist Yadam ba, ja?
Which transition?
For some, it's a song cycle. For others, it's the world's first concept album, Beethoven's An die ferne Geliebte. 6 songs tell the story of unrequited love in 15 minutes.
And the biggest invention is for sure the Ferne Geliebte, that he created really a song cycle. This is the first in music history, I would say, that he was composing a very long song, but with this kind of Zwischenspiel and no Vorspiel, no intro, very kind of powerful Nachspiel. But in fact, you have different kind of songs, different kind of episodes, and he is.
This is like so relatable. He tries to say something in English. His English is not bad, but obviously he doesn't know a couple of words in English that would be needed to explain here. And it's the same for me because I didn't learn all the terms in music theory in English, but in German, obviously. So like for me, it's like so I try to explain that, and I would like to know what that special word is, but I don't know.
Telling a long story. This is really for sure the biggest invention.
Oh, Davidson has sang this song last year. Wow.
Repertoire.
So you're a singer?
With its sophisticated transitions, the piano does much more than merely accompany the singing voice.
The more I've discovered Beethoven's repertoire, the more I've come to appreciate that every one of his compositions is a masterwork in its own right, regardless if they're lieder that aren't necessarily known to be
by the way,
best
he is
leader
a
in the
great
world, or not
pianist,
considered that way,
Janiziki.
but they're true genius. You just have to look for it.
An die ferne Geliebte became the model for all great song cycles of classical and romantic music.
Wow,
Franz
we have a
Schubert
tenor and we have a
adopted the close
bass
connection
here.
between piano and singing voice from Beethoven.
I know that one.
Gustav Mahler expanded the idea and had the singer accompanied by an orchestra.
Should form a Twitch choir, that would be interesting.
I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving
150 years later, the idea was picked up in a completely different place. In the mid-1960s, pop music was revolutionized in the hills north of Hollywood. This is where the first concept albums were created, shedding pop's teeny-bopper image and making it into a global million-dollar business.
Hollywood, lights, camera, action, home of the movie industry and also home of some of the most iconic pop songs ever produced.
One driving force was Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. His goal was to write mini symphonies for kids.
Oh, I can see in the chat we are going to form a Twitch choir here, it seems like.
For his concept album Smile, he hired a young lyricist, the arranger and composer Van Dyke Parks.
I read about your good vibration session. You suddenly said, we got to put a cello in there.
Yeah, put a cello. Eighth note triplets. Fundamental eighth note triplets.
How did you come up with that idea?
God gave me a plan. And God gave me a plan that is that I would be a good arranger, come up with a good idea for something that had maybe a 2.5 minute time lapse. A signature, like the red ruby slippers, something to distinguish the bank Dick's handshake. Play it again, Sam.
Your very first single.
Van Dyke Parks released the first ever pop music version of Beethoven's Ode to Joy. This is your number 9, your very first solo single, and it's Beethoven. Tell me why. Why Beethoven for this?
I can tell you, I knew what I loved, and I loved that music that Beethoven, I understand, had adapted.
Actually, you know, I'm struggling sometimes with figuring out how music is going to evolve in the future, because right now it seems a little bit like we're stuck. But I do believe that we can reuse and like recycle older music and mix it with newer forms of music. For example, like he did with like that 9th Symphony. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that specific one here, but I do think that we can use classical music and mix it with pop, mix it with jazz, and we are going to create, like, there are already so many examples of that, where you can create like new art forms and like new music. And yeah, I'm a little bit skeptical, but let me know in the chat, what do you think how music is going to evolve in the future? Because I feel like we had everything now. There's nothing that is going to challenge us, that is going to have like this big scandal. We even had like 433, come on. Like, what else? What else is coming now in music? I don't know.
And defined. In the 9th Symphony, I was knocked out by that. And then there's that piece, and that piece was probably the first time that it dawned on me that somebody was extrapolating something from an idiom, a folk idiom, roots music. That made a big dent in my life. And I just immediately, I mean, preteen, had bifurcated conveniently the nexus of the street and the elite, the music that came from the street that found its way into the parlors and so forth.
Space alien
Gottschalk,
music,
for
okay.
example, on an American scale.
Thanks to Van Dyke Parks, Beethoven became a kind of folk rock pioneer at the same time that Bob Dylan was making folk rock popular around the world.
I've got Beethoven on this shoulder here. I've got the absolute nihilists here. Bob Dylan's Sprechstimme, which outsprecht any Stimme I have ever heard before. He's the master of it. It's undeniable that pop music is attractive because it has a physicality, and it recognizes the eurythmic appeal in music. And that's what Beethoven, and certainly Brahms on steroids,
style music
for me.
Brian Wilson and Van Dyke Parks shared an ambitious vision. Rather than a simple collection of tracks, Smile was to be a song cycle telling the history of the United States, carefully composed right down to the last detail. Smile wasn't released in its entirety until decades later, but the idea was quickly copied by the world's most successful bands. Right next door in Laurel Canyon, Frank Zappa created his concept album, Freak Out. And in England, the Beatles were also inspired by Smile. They invented a fictitious music group, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The British band The Who released a rock opera called Tommy. And Pink Floyd's concept album, The Dark Side of the Moon, about a descent into madness, became one of the most successful albums in music history.
But what exactly is the connection to Beethoven?
Beethoven wrote the very first song cycle ever, and Die Ferne Geliebte. And funnily enough, and this is why I really wanted to talk to you about this is what you've been doing. This is what you did immediately after your album with Song Cycle.
Well, okay, this is interesting, but that was imposed upon me by the medium. The medium was the album, and the album had a constituent elapsed time.
This concept album.
Yeah, the concept album did come out of Laurel Canyon. To be sure, all of those people, to numerous to mention, although Zappa was there in Tom Mix's cabin, which is burned to the ground. Other groups, Joni Mitchell and Crosby, Stills and Nash and all of this stuff. Everybody in Laurel Canyon had the idea, the concept album, that is since people were now listening to the album, it was a technological advancement. We were at the gilded age of the analog recording, and that album form provided that continuity that people sought. And it became a discipline, and a pro forma, everything had to be just so. For example, you had to think about the first cut. You had to think about the last cut. You had to think about the amount of time, thinking about the amount of time it would take to turn it over and get to the B side, what the first cut would be, and how would it end, and did you want to build or evaporate?
On his 1968 concept album, Song Cycle, Van Dyke Parks explored the myth of California from the splendid national parks to the artificiality of Hollywood.
Crack of the backbeat on Vine Street.
When you did your own song cycle, Beethoven, he described water, running water and woods and birdsong in his music. You were lucky you were recording analog and you could put the sounds of the water and stuff in there.
That's right. I wanted to do that, so I felt that it was unavoidable. But the most interesting component was when I decided not to write the song called Vine Street. I'd lived on Vine Street.
There's Beethoven in there too.
And there is Beethoven, and Randy Newman put that in there because of that disc. So, you know, this is my Rosebud. Beethoven is bigger than Rosebud to me.
Your most recent album, Spangled, it's also a concept. You've decided to put famous Pan-American songs together with a reason. And what has kept you on this track?
In my case, it's people around me.
Gaby Moreno. One of the people around Van Dyke Parks is Grammy winner Gaby Moreno, a singer-songwriter from Guatemala. She and Van Dyke wrote the concept album Spangled. The song cycle evokes the time where there was still a lively cultural exchange between Latin America and the USA, with neither hatred nor border walls.
There's a place where I've been told every street is paved with gold, and it's just across the borderline.
This idea of having a concept, is this something you've consciously tried to do in your own stuff, or did this come through the work with Van Dyke Parks?
What does that have to do with Beethoven? Did they get inspired by Beethoven, or what?
Of an album like
I don't get it.
From beginning to end. Like, ideally, in an ideal scenario,
guys,
you want people to listen to it from beginning to end.
Did you have the concept before, or did the concept come while you were looking for the
connection
pieces?
to Beethoven?
I remember at first it was a lot of songs in Spanish. So Nube Gris, he started sending me that one, which ended up on the record. Historia de un Amor. And then I can't remember quite well, but I think he just sent me Across the Borderline, which is a song written by Ry Cooder and John Hyatt in the 1980s. So he sent me that song, and I was like, and something sparked in me. I said, okay, this, I get it, we get it. This is the concept. Okay. We're gonna do a record that celebrates not only the cultures in Latin America, but also the US, and try to like unite the North and the South and Central America, and think of it, because in Guatemala, I always say this, like in Guatemala, they teach us that the continent is America, you know, one continent. So it was important for me to like just reflect that on this record, where we're celebrating
that's me.
The wonderful music that comes from all these different
I'm turning
parts
into that meme.
of America.
Singer-songwriting legend Jackson Browne joined the celebrations.
The Rio Grande, 1,000 footprints in the sand reveal a secret no one can define. The river flows on like a breath in between our life and death. Tell me who'll be next to cross the borderline.
politics is another thing that really appealed to me, and Beethoven's maverick status.
It encouraged you.
It encouraged me.
Auf dem Hügel sitzt sie spähend in das blaue Nieland. Nach den Fernen Triften sehend, wo ich dich, Geliebte, fand.
Beethoven's song cycle and Die Ferne Geliebte was a wonderful concept which is still being copied by composers and arrangers today. With
Okay,
this
show
next
me.
completely different idea, Beethoven shaped an entire genre and enchanted an audience of millions.
This always reminds me of Disney Fantasia. I love Disney Fantasia. It's so cool. I wish they continued.
In 1808, Ludwig van Beethoven began to create images in the minds of his listeners. He gave his Sixth Symphony descriptive movement names, such as Awakening of Cheerful Feelings on Arrival in the Countryside.
Yeah, he started with Programmmusik,
He began
right?
to describe images using the orchestra. For the country outing, he featured woodwind instruments, who were usually more in the background of the music. Beethoven's new ideas were a success. The first movement conjures up associations with excursions in idyllic country life. But that idyll is disturbed. Thunder, Storm is the title of the fourth movement. Here, brass and percussion dominate. The idea of program music, music with a meaning or concept, was born with the Sixth Symphony and quickly became an important genre of romantic music.
I love this piece. It's so cool.
Symphony
Someone's asking
Fantastique
what's
from
my favorite
1830,
Beethoven
Hector
sonata.
Berlioz chose
I would
the
say
same
Waldstein.
instrumentation for the Saint-Marchand movement as
Waldstein.
Beethoven had done
But let me know
20
in the
years
chat what's
earlier.
yours.
In Richard Strauss's monumental Alpine Symphony, Beethoven's instrumentation is still unmistakably the model for Strauss's 1915 program music. The idea of using sounds to create moods and associations with landscapes took over Hollywood with the introduction of sound in films.
Yeah, Pathetique
Movie
is also cool.
soundtracks became
Tempest
elaborately
also.
orchestrated.
Appassionata is also awesome. Sorry. Ah, there! I just talked about Disney!
One of the
That's-
very early sound
I
films,
think I like it so
Fantasia by
much.
Walt Disney, uses the first movement of Beethoven's Sixth Symphony to depict an idyllic fantasy nature scene. Beethoven's music has since been used in countless film productions around the world. Composers who had fled Europe, such as Erich Wolfgang Korngold, brought Beethoven's legacy to American films, creating a new lasting standard. Music in the style of Beethoven intensified the effects of idyllic landscapes and romantic love scenes.
Why did you run away like that?
I don't know.
It is quite
I miss the time when we had good film music.
Now, Captain, on
Now it
staff.
feels honestly everything feels so similar in film music. There are rarely some movies, like new movies, where you can really hear like different type of music. It's always the same kind of, I feel. I don't know. But yeah, let me know in the chat what you think.
Banner of the Albatross.
And when the enemy approaches, we can hear rolls of thunder. Korngold's cannonballs can be heard from afar. And even the greatest modern-day film composer makes clever use of Beethoven formulas.
Like the Star Wars had great music.
In the Star Wars films, the forces of good, embodied by Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker, are played by woodwind instruments.
Yeah, but just because it's played by woodwind instruments...
Evil.
Wait, just because it's played by woodwind instruments, it's your link to Beethoven? That's... No. Come on, that's weak. That's weak.
With its Imperial March, is dominated by brass instruments. Coincidence? We are at one of the greatest music festivals in the world, the Tanglewood Music Festival in Lenox, Massachusetts. And one of their yearly highlights is Film Night, where, of course, they play the music of the legendary John Williams. The composer of Jaws, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, Star Wars, and many
iconic
others,
stuff.
has influenced the film music industry of the last decades more than anyone else, and won many Oscars and Grammys along the way. The typical John Williams sound touches millions of fans around the world, and me especially as a horn player.
Oh my god, it's so cool. I miss the time where we still had like this complex type of music. What happened here? Wait. Ah! Why can't I escape that? Wait, what happened? What happened? Ah, here. I'm stupid.
As a moviegoer, I could not imagine a world without John Williams. And this is what we're talking about today, a world without Beethoven. It's also impossible to imagine.
It is.
So Beethoven was the first composer to actually write programmatic music. In his Sixth Symphony, he gave each movement a title so that the listeners would know exactly what they were listening for.
Yes, the Sixth Symphony is maybe an anomaly to him, that he thought he might have been making entertainment.
You said in an interview that you felt that Beethoven was one of the greatest organizers of sound.
No question. The idea of organizing sound with instruments, in this case, into shapes and eventually into things that will exchange emotions is hard to imagine, like life without Beethoven. I had a conversation about this meeting with you with an elderly doctor friend of mine who was very, very brilliant. And I said, what is your answer to what would the world be like without Beethoven? And he said very quickly to me, what would life be like if we'd never seen a rainbow?
But how do you decide which instrument is going to be the one to portray Princess Leia, or which instrument is going to be the one to make us scared? Is that something? Do you have a program you've worked out over the years?
I mean, there are instruments that are associated with certain things, you know. I recently did a recording with Anna-Sophie Mutter.
Yeah, but like they are historically grown into these things that we associate them with. So, for example, the flute. When you're playing, like, for example, the shepherd. Also in Little Shepherd of Debussy, it's very connected to nature and like this peaceful setting, because people back then, like shepherds and like people that were wandering around in in the forest and in the landscape, they were having a flute with them, and that would be connected with this very peaceful setting and beautiful, and so on and so on. And while when you went to war, you had specific instruments there to, you know, hype up the army, like drums and trumpets and things like that. That is not something that Beethoven invented, though. Like, of course he included that as well because it was historically grown into that, but it doesn't mean that, you know, just because you're using it in that context that this is inspired by Beethoven. No, it's inspired by the way it was historically grown. I don't know.
We know. And she
What do you
wanted
think?
to play Star Wars, and I said, Anna Sophie, you have Star Wars, you have to have trumpets and cymbals and horns, you know, and all of that. You really can't play that on the violin. But we had fun adapting things that could be played.
The music of John Williams is not only for movies, it's played in concert halls around the world, including here in the Vienna Musikverein, where Beethoven himself was an honorary member.
There's a tradition in theater and in film. If you have a villain, you would probably have, in the old days, you would have a diminished seventh chord played tremolando somewhere. There is an expectation culturally of certain kind of things where the horn is established as the hero.
We like that.
These connections apply. They're historical, they're cultural, that forms a structure within which you have some freedom.
Do you know in the Seventh Symphony, in the third movement, and then the trumpets and horn go, and then he does this. And then it goes into the theme.
I see a shark.
I see a shark. I see a shark. And when Simon
terrifying.
Yeah, a terrifying shark. And we've always wondered if that was the precursor to the Jaws theme.
I think so. I think Beethoven had been swimming.
The drama in Beethoven's music has been an endless source.
Yeah, hold on a second. Like, it's not that this kind of like musical theme did not already exist before. Like the half note, or is it half note in English? I don't know. Halbtöne, like this chromatic playing, like going back and forwards. This is something that already existed before. Also, for example, in trills, which also were meant to create tension, you know. So, sure, it's like put in this specific way, in that rhythm, a little bit slower, and to really feel the tension in between the notes. Sure, that's like something that happened in that music, but it's not that other composers did not also do these kind of things, so I don't know. It's like a semitone. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so it's, I don't know. No, I'm not sitting on a piano stool made out of slime. I have a yoga ball here, a gymnastic ball, because otherwise my back is going to die after the stream.
Lots of inspiration for film scores.
I mean, I don't doubt that Beethoven was a huge inspiration for film scores or for music that came after Beethoven in general. He was a huge inspiration, but like I don't know if that was really, like, the shark was really out of that
Influence
specific
is also
moment.
seen in the success of a somewhat unremarkable invention.
Actually, no, I don't think that Beethoven had back pain as well, because he probably went on a lot of walks and he probably did not sit as much as we do nowadays, because, you know, he was not sitting in front of his computer. Of course, he was sitting a lot at the piano, but or sitting at his desk to write down scores, but I'm pretty sure that he went outside much more for walks, and he, you know, moved around much more just because of everyday life, not like we today.
For some, it's an instrument of torture. For others, an indispensable companion for rehearsing and performing. The metronome, providing the correct tempo at all times.
The metronome.
In 1818, Ludwig van Beethoven caused another sensation in the music world. He wrote an article praising the previously unknown invention by his friend Johann Nepomuk Melzel, the metronome.
I also have this classic one, but it's like it's dead basically. It doesn't keep up with the tempo anymore, so it just stands in our living room as decoration.
Since then, life in music without a metronome has become hard to imagine.
Getting late here. It's already past 11 p.m.
Das Metronom ist
The metronome is basically the click-track tool that is embedded in the recording software.
Software eingebaut ist.
There's a musical grid, so to speak.
Ein musikalisches
There are certain time signatures, a certain tempo.
Eine bestimmte Taktart, ein bestimmtes Tempo. Und ich gehe
If I'd clicked start or record, I'd hear this, for example.
Würde ich zum
Thanks
Beispiel
for
das
explaining
hier
how
hören.
a metronome is working.
Beautiful.
Ein Click-Track macht
Apart from the fact that it delivers a very stable tempo, a click track also works as a synchronous reference.
als Synchronreferenz. Ja. Viele Pop- und Rock
Many pop and rock music productions are done as multi-track recordings. Each instrument in a song is recorded one at a time.
Später spielt ein Gitarrist dazu.
For example, drums are often recorded first, and then a week later a guitarist plays along, and then in another studio a singer sings his lines. These separate tracks are held together by this click reference.
I would definitely say that the way we make music nowadays is very different from... Well, of course, we have other technical possibilities today, but I'm not sure how Beethoven would have reacted to that like whole thing of we are playing exactly on the beat and there's no freedom for, you know, going a little bit off, kind of like rubato or stretto, ritardando. Like, of course, ritardando is something that you can still achieve even with a metronome if you just slow down the metronome, basically. But I feel like it's a little bit more limited because of like this click track thing.
Beethoven published metronome markings for his symphonies in the Leipzig Music Journal.
he left nothing to chance.
Yeah, these metronome markings by any composers up until, I don't know, let's say 1945, around that time maybe. Up until then, you have to take them with, how do you say that in English? With a something with salt, grain of salt, with a grain of salt. Because, you know, the metronomes, they all had problems. Sometimes they were too fast, sometimes they were too slow. They're not digital things, you know. They all of them had different metronomes. Of course, they were standardized, but still, if I just look into the metronome that I have, it's like it's broken, you know, and it can't really keep up its own beat. And I think for many composers, some editors asked for metronome numbers, to write metronome numbers actually into the score. It was not the composers themselves who wanted to include metronome numbers from the beginning. It was more the editors who told them it sells better, you know, if you have a metronome number there. Also, Brahms, for example, he said that there are no 2 days where you can play, like, on that one day that metronome number and the next day you play exactly the same metronome number. That is not musical. Like, you're going to change the tempo because on the next day you're a different person. So, like, yeah.
Before that, composers had used Italian tempo markings from largo, slow, to presto, fast.
Yeah, gewidmet is dedicated.
But they were approximate
exactly.
markings. Thanks to metronome markings, every conductor knows the precise tempo Beethoven wanted for his symphonies.
Yeah, but still they are choosing other tempo because it's fine. It's okay. We get an idea of the tempo around the tempo. But we're not going to play exactly the tempo.
Why do you think it was so important to Beethoven to promote this new idea, the metronome?
It's like evolution, you know, like a fish coming out of the water and realizing we need feet, you know, and then they grow feet and then they start walking. And so I think that probably that has something to do with it, because all of a sudden the control goes from the hand of a composer into the hand of a stranger who has nothing to do with the creation of the piece. And this whole recreative process, the interpreting process, was born.
Paavo Järvi is one of the world's top conductors, and he is a great fan of Beethoven's metronome markings.
Yeah, I think we should definitely look into the markings, but it doesn't mean that we have to.
He published the metronome markings probably because he wanted to make sure that people are in the right area of tempi. And of course, so much controversy is to this day around these metronome markings, and the main problem really is that they are very fast. A lot of them are much faster than the traditional Beethoven interpretation that we know now are comfortable with. And in a way, I think that that's exactly why he published them, because he sort of could foresee that things would get slower, more romantic. You know, there is a kind of a slowing down, the grandness, the Wagner effect, if you will.
Yeah, that's true.
The metronome, which Beethoven so appreciated, makes it possible to set the same...
By the way, this is also the reason why you should definitely practice with metronome, especially like romantic pieces. We tend to, not just you, but like everyone, also professionals, we all tend to slow down at parts where you feel like, oh, I want to enjoy that part. And you should enjoy that part, but not by slowing down and dragging the tempo more and more and more, because you're making things very, very, how do you say that? Cringe. if like it's over dramatic, over romanticized, and you're losing a little bit of that, not just a little bit, you're losing the elegance and the simplicity of the music, and the music, it will shine on its own if you keep it in the same pulse. Like, don't try to slow it down, and like it's falling apart otherwise.
Tempo anytime and anywhere. Since 1895, a German company has been producing Melzer's metronomes and selling them all over the world. They are based in the well-hidden, idyllic town of Izny.
Where is Izny? Wait, I want to see. Where is Izny?
In Allgäu, in South Germany,
Allgäu.
there is the most famous...
Allgäu! That's where my grandma came from. Where? Izny. Izny im Allgäu. That's like 2 hours away from me. Ah, okay. There's Memmingen. Memmingen is where my grandma lived. Oh, that's interesting. I should definitely go and visit them. I want to have their metronome again, like one that is actually working, not my broken one.
Famous metronome manufacturer in the whole world, Widner Metronomes. I never thought I could get so excited about metronomes, but look at this one.
Metronomes are high-tech. Before a model is sold, it has to pass an endurance stress test.
Well, mine didn't pass any endurance stress test.
Historically, it was the case that in the Baroque period, they only had dances that roughly predefined the meter. There was the allemande, the courante, the sarabande, and so on. And when these dances went out of fashion, there were no longer any meters or no concept of them.
Oh, that's a very good
Then
explanation,
came the Italian
actually.
tempo markings, allegro, adagio, and so on. But what do they really mean? There was no definition.
Yeah, that's true. And this is why you should get a feeling for these tempo markings, allegro, adagio, andante, and so on. You should understand the meaning of them and the character they come with. And then you will get a good grasp of the tempo. Of course, like, you will already know, okay, adagio is pretty slow, like, very slow. But still, like, it's like also historically grown, so you have to understand the concept of these tempo markings and not just rely on the metronome. Especially because they are giving you more information than just tempo. It's also about character. And if you understand the character, you'll get the right tempo because you have to use the tempo to build up the right character.
Let's come back to Beethoven. He interpreted his allegro differently than Salieri, for example. That means that there was a need for a binding tempo reference.
A little bit sweaty, the conductor. Must be very...
Beethoven wrote that his
It's like an
metronome was sick.
exercise.
How can a metronome be sick?
Krank werden.
You have to bear in mind the state of technology in those days. The metronome is a highly precise mechanical device. The slightest deviations, in terms of dimensions, we're talking about a weight discrepancy of 1 or 2 grams, will cause a different metronome speed.
Yeah, so probably all the metronomes were slightly different from each other.
We conveniently, as post factum, so to speak, we can say, well, you know, he was deaf and his metronome was broken. And there is even some kind of a story somewhere in the letter where it says that the metronome was not functioning correctly. I mean, I think it's all nonsense. I mean, Beethoven was deaf, he wasn't stupid.
Beethoven's insistent on exact tempos set standards. With his special feeling for rhythm, he inspired a completely different genre long after his time. Later in his life, Beethoven moved further and further away from what his listeners expected to hear. Some critics even considered him crazy. Syncopations, piano cascades. What sounds like a jazz piece from an American bar around 1920 is actually Beethoven's last piano sonata, Opus 111, composed almost 100 years earlier.
Yeah, Beethoven was a genius.
It seems like he shortens the notes as he goes along to create this sort of jazzy effect.
Yeah, I think he programs in this natural momentum, so each variation gains more notes per beat, whereas the meter itself doesn't change.
Was he bored? Had he tried everything else? Beethoven wrote a set of variations in this piano sonata. He varied not only the melody and the harmonies as others had done before him, he varied the rhythm. This piece remains a challenge for every pianist.
I think as you come from the main theme and as this develops, if you make the rhythm too crisp too soon, then somehow it takes away the whole natural character that, in my mind, Beethoven was trying to build.
This sonata for 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour? Maybe? I don't know, actually. Normally I'm not taking the pieces from 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour for actually studying them, and I would actually like to study this piece someday. I don't know, maybe. Then again, I also took the Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto, and
it's
I
really
would love
unique
to study
because
that
Beethoven,
as well.
the way he writes it with these falling
maybe.
passages, it really swings naturally, and he creates this swing. I mean, he really writes it in there, and to go along with it, you have some blues notes, some blues tones, and it's really brilliant what he does.
In 1822, you can only imagine how confused the music critics were.
What would it sound like if you played it more classical, more like it's exactly written? Is it even possible at this speed of... It becomes edgier, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it takes the fun out of it.
He grooves.
For a long time, this sonata was considered unplayable because of its tempo. About a century later, musicians on a different continent discovered how much fun playing syncopation at a high speed could be. Jazz.
I should play this as well. I never tried that, actually. Yeah, by the way, everyone that is still watching on YouTube, you can also switch to Twitch because I can't see your chat messages on YouTube. I only see the one on Twitch right now. Oh my god, I want to learn jazz. This would be so cool.
To find out what the
play
jazz
like
world
that.
thinks about Ludwig van Beethoven, we're here at the absolute temple of jazz, the House
Is
of
someone
Jazz
of
in
you
New York City.
playing jazz,
and who better
actually?
to speak to about all this but Wynton Marsalis himself.
Wynton Marsalis is one of the most famous trumpet players in the world. He's won 9 Grammys and he is the artistic director of the House of Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Well,
Well, something people have credited Beethoven with, there's this piano sonata, his very last piano sonata, number 32, opus 111, and people say, actually it was Stravinsky that came up with the quote, it was a pre-echo of Boogie Woogie because of the snappy bass lines and the syncopation in there. What would...
Did she put her horn on the Steinway? Are you crazy, woman? Are you crazy? Excuse me, I have to say something now. This is an instrument. You wouldn't put something on your horn, would you? Would you? My God, I'm rage mode. Excuse me? Sacrilegious, exactly. My God. Don't do this, guys. This is just because it's a piano, you're not supposed to put stuff on it. Like, except of the teddy bear, okay? But he's not going to scratch my piano. Damn it. Woman, don't do that, please. Men, also, don't do that. Also, I'm putting this on, like, the part where you put stuff on, like, that you can take out, you know? I'm not putting it on the piano. Like, books don't count. Books don't count. Books is the only thing. But also, don't put your books on the lid. We have this extra thing here to put our books on. Don't put your feet on your piano. That's nasty. Don't put your horn. Don't put your violin. Don't put anything, especially no water bottles or anything else on your piano. That's an instrument. I'm getting mad at seeing this. Sorry. Can you put your piano on your horn after watching this? Yes. Yes, you can.
Would you say as a master of jazz?
I think that it's just a dotted 16-note rhythm. With Boogie Woogie, the consciousness of it is the ground rhythm that does not change. So even Passacaglia and those kind of forms where the bass repeats.
It always drives me nuts when people put stuff on the piano and treat it like as if it is a table. It's not a table.
The challenge of stride in jazz styles is, can you keep that left hand in strict march time and play these figures on the top?
It's crazy that he's just not looking at his fingers. He's just like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that without looking at it. It's crazy.
So yeah, the dotted 16th note rhythm is related.
But people are hearing that today and saying, oh, that must have been what it was. But it's a big credit to Beethoven that something he did then, people are still analyzing.
You know, Beethoven did so much more than that, that's a reduction of him. Like, I feel like just Beethoven's modernity. Like the person in the 20th century who most resembles Beethoven is Louis Armstrong. Because Louis Armstrong actually gave you a sense of what it meant to be modern and what it meant to be free. Beethoven, in terms of him as in relation to jazz, just his freedom in improvisation. Of course, we don't have recordings of him, but every account of his playing is, what he could do was go from really thunderous, bombastic, virtuosic playing to the most tender, beautiful, melodic, and also how he traversed the keys.
Would that have been written down, or would he just have gone with it?
He'd just go with it.
Apparently, Beethoven was even better in improvisation than in composing. At least that's what witnesses from back then said. And just try to imagine that. Like, being that good in improvisation, that must be crazy.
He's a piano player. He don't, why does he have to write it down?
You find rhythm all over Beethoven's music.
If you think, with Beethoven's music, he understands the three and the...
No, also don't put flowers on the piano. Just don't put anything on your piano, especially not on the lid. But like, don't put anything except of your books, of pencils, and try to not put the pencils into your piano, please. And the teddy bear, that's it. Nothing else. And no cups of coffee.
Environment of two, which comes from African music, which he probably got it from through Middle Eastern music, or what they would call Turkish music. So it's when you're in a two rhythm, dum 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 dum, and you put three on top of it, ding 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 ding. If you listen to the Third Symphony, he does that. It starts with a syncopated off line, It's bing, 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 bing. Then all of a sudden, ba, ba, ba. It's like half notes grouped in two. Bum, 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 bum. So you're in three, but he's grouping the notes in two. This is a kind of ultra syncopation, but what I love about it is that he's using it as a syncopation for the same reason we use syncopation. It's I'm giving you a time, and your body has the expectations of this time, and now I'm playing with you with the time. So in this string quartet that I love,
Well, that's
F
the
major,
purpose of a
Opus
syncopation.
135, it's a movement in three. It's fast, vivace.
Beethoven's rhythms are also a challenge for the Armida Quartet from Germany.
Yeah, I was also wondering if he's flirting with her. That close that he went with his hand. I think I would feel uncomfortable. I don't know.
It rocks. See how they talking to each other?
You didn't like that?
I love that.
But he's cute.
Beethoven also played around with the rhythm in his last string
I
quartet.
know him! He was one of my professors, actually. I studied chamber music with him. Wow, that's cool. That's funny.
In the second movement, he hides the first beat of the bar, which would usually be the most important beat in European music. So what's the difficulty of playing this vivace for you? Is it playing against each other? You start, but not on the one, you're on the three. What's so hard about that?
Well, basically, it's like playing contemporary music. Everyone has got his pattern and has to stick to it. And yet, as a group, we still have to feel a common pulse, otherwise we'd lose ourselves. Because it actually goes against our natural need for structure to stick to a pattern, which is actually against the beat.
Could you take this apart slowly and play it for me so that I can see where the three is and where the one is?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Ah, here you found each other on the one, finally. Can you play it again, fast, the way it should be?
So he's...
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But honestly, at the piano, he did that all the time. And now imagine you are one person, you have to do that job, what 4 people are doing there. I don't want to say that we are better or anything. But at the piano, we do have to do crazy stuff, okay? And we do have to follow all the different lines and the different voices as if we were like a full orchestra sometimes.
It's like a football player jukes you or does something kind of fake, or a soccer player will do. They'll be playing and they'll make you think they're going this way and they do it. He's doing that with the rhythm.
Pianist supremacy, exactly.
It's incredible how much Beethoven has shaped our music world. Whether in jazz, film scores, or rock music, his innovations and ideas are everywhere.
I think that's the ending of the documentary. Yeah.
A world without Beethoven?
Guys, what do we think?
Unimaginable.
I think the music was awesome. I do think that they brought up some nice topics that are definitely connected to Beethoven. Oh, the music is so good. Please don't stop here. I was already getting scared. I wonder when they are going to stop. At which part. Okay, it's still running for 45 seconds, so probably they'll find a good time to end. No, this is not Andras Schiff conducting, this is Sir Simon Rattle.
Beethoven
Oh, it's not
is
over.
Actually, no one, well, everyone we've spoken to, no one can imagine it.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot in the world. I always think about any person, whatever they did, you could take it out the world. The world is fine. I mean, you can. There are a lot of people who've never heard of Beethoven, you know, and their lives are not bad.
That's true. That's true. There are enough people who do not know anything of Beethoven, and their life is not bad. That's true. And I also don't think that Beethoven would have put himself above everything and anyone, and claiming that he's like the master of all and blah blah blah. Yeah, imagine not knowing Beethoven. Yeah, in our world it's unimaginable, but I'm pretty sure that there are areas in this world where Beethoven is something that you just don't know. So, but yeah, that's actually crazy to imagine that, like, you've never heard the Fifth Symphony, you've never heard Für Elise, you've never heard the Pathétique and stuff. Yeah. No, the teddy is not made out of chocolate. He's made out of teddy stuff. I don't know. Yeah, most people know Beethoven and they don't care. And I don't think that their life would be any different if they didn't have Beethoven, if they didn't know about Beethoven. I would have liked to know what actually changed in our world because of Beethoven. But yeah, like, I think you can't really tell the impact one person has on the world, except of maybe like specific people that I'm not going to talk about today. Yeah. Thank you. My headphones look really dope. I like them too, especially with the light. Like, they are gaming headsets actually, but I'm not gaming. Not really. Yeah, I'm still awake, but not long anymore. It's already past 11:30 here in Germany, PM. And I have to get up early tomorrow because I have to help my sister with something. But guys, it was so much fun watching that documentary together with you. Let me know, do you have any other documentaries or like other videos that you would like to watch together? Definitely let me know. And we will see each other on Wednesday again for the next challenge. Oh yeah, the next challenge is coming up. We have to find the next challenge piece. Do you have a Discord set up? Not yet, but that's a good point. I'll definitely have to do this. Especially if I want to get like links from you and challenge recommendations and stuff. I should definitely put a Discord server on. Okay, the bouncy pianist is saying bye-bye, good night. Have a great day, have a great night, whatever, wherever you are in the planet. And see you on Wednesday for the next challenge. Mwah! Bye, guys!